Welcome to R&R Across America. Join me, Rich, and my daughter Rose on our motorcycle adventure. I purchased the Ulta-Tow motorcycle trailer from Northern Tool. I knew we'd need it for our supplies since we plan on tent camping for our trip. If you purchase a trailer with the intent to cross state lines, make sure the store completes the certificate of origin so you can license the trailer. Many states require a license. My home state, Tennessee, does not. For the unboxing, we have the top of the clamshell compartment, then the tires, the trailer tongue with the drop-down foot for when it's not connected to the hitch, the bottom half of the clamshell compartment with the hydraulic shocks to hold the top open, latches, keys, instruction sheet, 2 plastic wheel guard fenders, nuts, bolts, chains, wiring, and other accessories, the cooler rack which will eventually hold the solar battery compartment, axle, rear fender, it won't do much in case of an accident, but it's here, leaf springs, and finally the main frame structure. After doing some research on the internet, I found out that the bearings on this trailer are not that durable and that there's not much grease in the hub. So I thought it best to replace the bearings and repack the housing before I assemble the trailer. I felt it would be easier this time than after the trailer is completed. First, remove the protective covering. This helps keep debris out of the housing. A hammer and a screwdriver work just fine for me. Then I remove the cotter pin that holds the crown nut in place. Now to loosen the crown nut and unscrew it from the axle. I think it's easy to see why they call it a crown nut. Now to pry out the retaining washer. Here we can see the actual bearing. I can pull the whole hub off by hand. Here's the outer bearing. On the inside of the hub, there's a seal that has to be removed. This is metal and rubber and will be destroyed when removing. It takes some persuasion, but I'm stubborn. This is the inner bearing. It faces the axle, or the center of the trailer. The outer bearing faces away from the trailer on the lug nut side. This is called a race, and it houses the bearing in place. I'll need to remove the old race first. I used a screwdriver and tapped it out going around the edges, careful not to damage the hub. The race is out and I can put the new ones in. First I'll try to evenly seat it with a few taps. And before you comment, I realize the tool is set up backwards. I'll fix that in a minute. Gently tapping and going around repeatedly to get it started straight. Now that the race tool is set up correctly, I can drive the race down into the hub until it rests on the shoulder rim inside the hub. Now I can move to placing the inside rim. It's the same process, just taking my time and getting it seated evenly. I'm going to apply the bearing grease to the bearing now. I place a blob of it in my hand. One side of the bearing has a wider opening than the other side. So I'm going to take the open side and work my way around the bearing, pushing the grease from the palm of my hand into the housing. Just keep distributing the grease deep into the bearing all the way around until it starts to push out the other side. First put a little grease on the race and then put the bearing inside the wheel hub. This is the inside of the hub, so I'll need to install the new rubber seal. Again with the gentle, even, straight tapping all the way around the perimeter of the seal. Now repeat for the outside bearing, installing the washer, crown nut, and cotter pin in reverse order of disassembly. With the bearing installed, it's time to put the trailer together. With the frame ready, I install the leaf springs. Man, do I wish it went this fast in real time. Now the axle, and then wheels. I'll come back later with a torque wrench on the lugs to make sure they meet specifications. Then I'll flip the frame and begin installing the fenders. Now the lights, passing the wires through the tube and bolting the tongue to the frame. With the frame complete, it's time to bolt the bottom clamshell. I attach the top shell to the hinge side and the hydraulic arms. Now to remove the protective film from the top. With basic assembly completed, we can move on to improvements and customization of the trailer. I covered all the exposed wiring with protective conduit. This includes through the framing and the tongue to the wiring harnesses. For additional visibility, I've applied reflectors all the way around the top shell. I'm hoping with additional visibility that the cars will see that there's a trailer behind the bike. On the rear fender, I've added an aftermarket brake light. Placing an additional brake light higher than the stock lights will hopefully let other motorists see my intentions. One safety addition is the fire extinguisher. And for unexpected distances between gas stations, here's an additional auxiliary fuel bottle. I'll be adding a number 3 flammable gas sticker soon. Because the stock trailer is a 4-pin wiring harness, I had to add a second harness for the raised running and brake light bar. If it were a 5-pin, it wouldn't require a second harness, but with my wiring knowledge, A second harness was my only solution. This light bar functions as a running light and a brake light. The newly added light bar does not work as a turn signal. The stock lights work for running lights, brake lights, and turn signals. You can see the two wiring harnesses. This is the factory light harness, and this harness is for the additional brake light. I've added a Heim hitch. It's a swivel hitch versus the normal coupler hitch. The neck swivels as well as the inner ball. It allows the motorcycle to lean to the right and the left, while the trailer remains parallel to the road, with no torsion on the hitch assemblies. This is originally made for farm equipment, tractors, and it's called a top link. I inserted it into the square tube of the tongue, drilled a couple of holes, and applied these bolts to secure it to the frame of the trailer. It runs a good distance back into the tongue. I'll show the corresponding hitch pin in another video about installing the hitch assembly on the motorcycle. Inside the trailer compartment, I've added a couple of LED fixtures. I added a toggle switch to one of the light housings to allow me to turn the lights on and off. This way I can illuminate the trailer at night, making it much easier to see the contents. I believe that's going to be all for the custom improvements for the trailer, for now. Future plans are to install a solar panel on top of the trailer shell. I'm hoping the solar panel will be able to gather some power while we're riding to allow us to recharge all of our electronics. The cooler tray will house a rechargeable battery and all the electronics to harness the solar power collection. That's yet to be built, but that is the plan. That's where we are for now on the trailer. Thanks for watching this long video. I just wanted to share and document the preparations for our trip. Thanks for watching R&R Across America. We're Rich and Rose.